Good evening. Welcome to the Cranston City Council's regularly scheduled monthly meeting. Today is Monday, February 24th. At this time, the clerk can please take the roll in attendance.
Councilman Campopiano.
Present.
Councilman Bonanno.
Here.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Present.
Councilwoman Harayan. Councilman Andujar.
Present.
Councilman Ritz.
Present.
Councilman Trafficante.
Present.
Council Vice President Wall.
Here.
Council President Marino.
Present. Next this time, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance. We have approval of minutes. We have approval of the minutes of the January 27, 2025 regular council meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have the approval of the sealed minutes of the January 27, 2025 executive session. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have the approval of the minutes of the February 3rd special city council meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilwoman Harayan. Oh, sorry. Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next this evening, we have public acknowledgments and commendations. First up this evening, we have a citation of congratulations to the police chief, Colonel Michael Winquist, on his introduction to the Rhode Island Criminal Justice Hall of Fame. We want to congratulate you on this award, and we'll give a round of applause. Okay. I just wanted to express really, we are grateful and indebted to your service. I know you have been in law enforcement for quite some time, and your willingness to continue to serve our community is very much appreciated. And so we hope that you stick with us as well, and we really do appreciate it. I wanted to state as well, Council Vice President Wall shares in those congratulations, as do many of the council members. And I know Councilman Bonanno, you were very early out the gate as well to extend the congratulations and the citation this evening. But without any further ado, I will give you the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
I didn't prepare anything for tonight. I didn't know I was going to be speaking, but I do want to say that it's been an honor to serve the residents of Cranston for the last decade. Not retiring. You usually get something like this when you're going out the door, but I have 35 years in law enforcement, hopefully a lot left in the tank. I feel like I have a lot left, but I've had nothing but support from elected officials since I arrived here in Cranston in 2014. I look forward to serving the residents and get to know some of the new council members as well. So thank you very much for the citation. It means a lot to me. And Chris, thank you. He called me and told me about the great news that I was getting this. So thank you so much.
Next up this evening, we have a citation of congratulations to Mr. Earl Salisbury, recipient of the FPA Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant Operations and Maintenance Excellence Award. Councilman Ritz, if you would do the honors of presenting the citation this evening and extending congratulations on behalf of the council.
Thank you. Congratulate Earl Salisbury on receiving the award. Like Council President said, for the Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant Operations Management Excellence Award. But also I did want to recognize Ed Talley, who's the Environmental Program Manager. Ed's the city liaison that works with Earl. Ed's consultation and direction is invaluable in ensuring that the treatment plant facility and related infrastructure are effectively managed. I also like to note that the Hopkins administration has done an admirable job maintaining and improving the operations and plant facility. They've enhanced the partnership with Viola in terms of treatment quality and the process that Rhode Island DEM has come to acknowledge. The results in the administration's investment infrastructure with a well-managed internal service fund is self-evident. Much credit goes to Mayor Hopkins, DPW, and the whole Viola team. Again, Earl, I want to congratulate you on the citation.
Yeah, I didn't prepare anything tonight either. I wasn't really expecting to speak, but I did want to take a minute to just say that I'm kind of here representing my team of 40 people there. In Veolia, we have a big backing supporting cast behind us. We've actually been at the facility since 1989. That facility's been there since 1940. And Councilman Ritz, he mentioned about the administration and some of the people. And yeah, it's the support I get from the city, from Ed Talley, from Ken Mason, from the other public works directors over time. It's invaluable. I mean, when you've got infrastructure in the ground from 1940, you have to stay ahead of it. And then the way that it's been managed, so that you can actually fix the things before there's problems. So if you think of some of your peers in other cities and some of the stuff that they're going through, that's the type of stuff that we're trying to avoid and stay on it. I know most of you don't know me, and I always considered that as I was doing a good job. So I guess kind of that's all moot now. But I really appreciate the thoughtfulness for you to take the time and present me with this citation. Thank you.
And I see this evening we have Mayor Hopkins joining us. Mayor Hopkins, would you like to have a seat here? Okay, make sure I offer it to you. Thank you for joining us this evening. Next, we have resolutions. We have a resolution requesting the administration. Do I skip a page? So much for double-sided pages. Going back, we actually have public hearings and public comment and docketed items this evening. If there is anyone in chambers or anyone on Zoom who wishes to be heard on any docketed matters, please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes. We will begin first within chambers.
Good evening, Council President and honorable members of the council. Nick Lima, Registrar Director of Elections for the Canvassing Authority. On the docket this evening is an appointment for the Board of Canvassers to reappoint our current board chairperson, Kirk McDonough. And as this is the first such appointment for many of the newer members of the council, I just want to very briefly take a minute of your time to describe the process so you're aware of how it works. Under state law, Board of Canvassers members are agents of the state. We don't just conduct local elections, we conduct the state elections for the general officers and General Assembly, and also federal elections for President and Congress. And because of that, the Board of Canvassers appointments are statutorily controlled by the General Assembly, and it's a pretty complex process. The party chairs submit a list of 5 names that goes to the mayor. The mayor nominates one of those names. It's historically, typically one of the first names on the list is the person that's been vetted to be willing to do the job. And then the council appoints. So this evening you have before you Kirk McDonough, who I have had the pleasure of working with in the Canvassing Authority for the last 2 years. In the last year and a half alone, he as a board member has overseen 5 elections, which I don't think any board member in the history of the city has ever overseen in that span of time. He has already made a reputation for himself as one of the finest election officials in the state. He's actually the vice chair of a brand new organization, which he helped get off the ground, of Board of Canvassers chairs, basically a chairman's caucus for all 39 cities and towns around the state, which has been invaluable for improving elections administration as we already start to get ready for next year's elections. So I just wanted to just let you know that I'll be here if there's any questions about the process when you get to the appointment. But I can tell you that as the registrar and department head for the Canvassing Authority, he is an outstanding election official. I mean, I would hope the council would reappoint him here this evening. I look forward to continuing working with him. I also want to thank Chairwoman Bucci, as well as Mayor Hopkins and the Hopkins administration for getting this speedily to the council, because continuity of operations for our office is essential whenever we have a vacancy or whenever we have a seat opened up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Director Lima. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to be heard? Sure. Mayor, sure.
Kearney Street in the city of Cranston. What I'd like to do is just kind of reiterate my position in terms of a docketed item tonight that's questioning my vacation time that I just recently took. It was the first vacation that I took in probably 2 years of being on the job. The last vacation that I took, I actually went down to Myrtle Beach, and it was the time of the floods. And I after about 4 days, I called my director of administration and told him that I was coming back early because I wanted to make sure that we were dealing with the floods appropriately. So I did cut that vacation short. But this particular one, there's a docketed item where the council president is putting together some questions in regards to the length of my vacation time and whether I informed anybody about it and how long I was gone. I just want to clarify some of those statements because I don't agree with all of the statements that are in that letter. First of all, on the day that the letter was written, the council president stated that I was out of the state for a vacation. I think that was on February 7th. On that day, I was actually in state, I was in the city, and I came in early to clear up some work before I went on vacation. So I was in my desk that day, working with my chief of staff to make sure we had some upcoming storms. Also in the letter, the council president stated that it is completely unacceptable that I have not been informed by this mayor, his staff, or the solicitor. She is 100% accurate that the mayor's staff nor the solicitor informed her that I went on vacation. Unfortunately, the misinformation states that on Saturday, February 1st, in the presence of my economic development director, we were at a ribbon cutting ceremony. And I personally informed the council president as a courtesy that I was going to be away on vacation for that week. Also in the letter, the president demanded, kindly advise me immediately of your whereabouts and your return. Well, the fact is my administration nor I report to the council president. Despite this, as a courtesy, my chief of staff accurately responded by telling her that I was in the city working. Also in the letter, the council president stated that the city's charter requires the city council president to preside as the interim mayor when the mayor is away for more than 10 days. Fact, unfortunately, the council president chose to omit to state the full content of the charter. In her letter, she failed to state that the prior sentence in the charter, that is the premise to the sentence that she quoted. The first sentence and premise of the charter section reads, if the mayor is temporarily unable to perform the duties as the mayor's office because of illness, accident, or absence from the city, the mayor's duties may be performed for a period of not more than 10 days by the director of a department designated in writing by the mayor, etc. Please note that I appropriately designated my chief of staff to perform these duties in an event that I was unable to perform them in my absence. In seeing that I was able and did execute my job responsibilities, the council president's reach is not applicable. Please note, this charter was written in 1964, well before modern day communications. Interesting to note that most here in this council were not even born at the time that this charter rule was written. As we all know that facts matter, and there are some more facts. At all times, with the exception of the airplane travel time, I was able to perform my duties and I was in command of the operations of the city. I was in daily contact providing direction with the chief of staff and others in my administration, including John Corso, as we prepared for some storms that were coming in. I was even involved in representing the city and working with Mayor De Silva in East Providence, Mayor Lombardi of North Providence, and the director of the League of Cities and Towns, Randy Rossi, as I sat on my vacation with my laptop and participated in a Zoom meeting in regards to the penalties for the landfill that the city was dealing with. I actually did perform my duties on a daily basis. For your information, while performing my duties, I was not in the city for an 11 calendar days, not the 13 represented. Of those days, 4 were weekends. One was a city holiday, President's Day, and 6 were considered work days. During that time, while I was in charge, the city did not miss a beat. An important matter to note, my administration and I do not report to the council president. There is a separation of powers. She has no right to place demands on this administration. She came into the office unannounced, gave my direct chief of staff a letter asking where I was. She went into my assistant in charge of, and I'm losing it for a second, Zach, and she went into that office and asked him, where was I? As emotional as she was, the mayor's staff should not be treated with such disrespect and hostility. As you can see, my recent few days away were in no way a violation of the charter. This is not like the mayor of Los Angeles celebrating in the continent of Africa while her city was burning down. The city of Cranston did not burn down, and I executed my duties effectively during my brief period out of town. Folks, please disregard this attempt to wrongfully discredit me. I urge you to reject entering the letter of the council president into the record, as they are at best misleading and contain some false facts. Should you elect to vote her letter into the record, I ask that you also vote the letter that I presented to you this evening into the record as well. Council members, I ask you to continue to move Cranston forward. Please stop the division. After the recent election and inauguration, the headlines in the city read that we were all going to work together for the best interest of the city. This argument in this letter this evening is petty. It should not be affected by the city council, and it should not be entered into the record. I stand by my credentials as your mayor. The city is in great shape, and I thank you for giving me the time and the attention to bring this to your matter. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mayor. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to be heard in public comment? And before that takes place, Mayor, we will have much more to say on this this evening, which will be enlightening for us all. Thank you. I see some.
Okay, can you hear me now? All right. My name's Alan Moyo. I own Forest Hill Nurseries and Lawn Beauticians and New England Mulching Services. There's, back a month or so ago, there was a fire on 460 Natick Avenue. And I think you guys are gonna be talking about it tonight. And last time I was here, I brought these packets that I want to give to each council person. And I'll leave them up here on the desk if you want, or give it to some, I'll put them on that desk. I want you to see what we've done, clean up. I spent a lot of money on hiring an excavator, not an excavator, it's a screening plant. It's a plant that we rented, and we screened all the loam from the compost, from the branches. We separated everything. It was a mess, but we separated it all. So now if you look at these pictures, you'll see it's very clean. There's no fires. I talked to Mike Sullivan, who I told you last time, who's a director of, back in his days, he's the director of DEM under Kachiri administration. And he was a brilliant man when it came to soils. He was the professor at the University of Rhode Island. He talked about soils. That's all he talked about. That's what his profession was. He had a doctorate of soils. So he told me, he says, Alan, if you grind that stuff up twice a year, he says, you won't have any problems. There'll be no fires. You won't have any problems. I said, okay. So I did one other thing that I'm going to do this spring. I'm going to go from my building, because I seen what the fire department did, which is, I still say, we got the best fire department in the state of Rhode Island, because I seen them guys, how they acted, how they reacted, how they worked with my son when my son was on the loader breaking up the fire. These guys they were great firemen, and it's worth every tax dollar I spend on the fire department. So with that being said, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer it when my time comes up. I'll stay here the rest of the night till we talk about that thing. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to be heard on any docketed matters?
Good evening, Madam Council President, members of the City Council. For the record, Robert Murray, 21 Garden City Drive in Cranston. I'm here tonight on behalf of Brian White, who you have a resolution on your docket this evening that was recommended by the Public Works Committee for the abandonment of a portion of Elmhurst Avenue. I don't want to reiterate everything that was said at the meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know there are a few members who weren't there. I just want to reiterate, because at the end of the meeting, I felt I didn't do a good job satisfying everybody on the Public Works Committee. First, the procedure set forth in this resolution is what is standardly followed in the city for a resolution. The Public Works Committee in December approved the abandonment. It was because of the turning of the council. We went back to the Public Works Committee, and with this resolution, the important points to emphasize is that the resolution is, you have to first make the determination that that portion of Elmhurst Avenue is no longer needed for highway purposes. And as the picture showed, as I brought that evening, it's basically the dead end of a dead end. The resolution speaks to the compensation that needs to be paid, the administrative subdivision process that has to follow, as well as the granting of easements once Mr. White and the Carpinato Group end up taking title to that small 6,500 square foot parcel. So I had occasion today, because I just wanted to satisfy myself. I went back and looked at some other resolutions. 1985, Councilman Trafficani was mayor at the time. The roads in Garden City were abandoned, and there were 15 subject tos, including the granting of easements. I looked in 2017. I had mentioned this at the committee. The Dollar General on Park Avenue at the corner of Budlong Road and Dyer. A portion of Old Park Avenue was abandoned. Same procedure: compensation, administrative subdivision, easements. The last one I looked at, I picked a few that, some of these I was not involved in. I was not involved in the Chase Bank on Atwood Avenue near Phoenix Avenue and Atwood, the new Chase Bank. The city council in 2019 abandoned a portion of Larch Street, which was now part of the parking lot there. Same process. Administrative subdivision, granting of easements subsequent to the resolution. So bottom line is, I'll be happy to answer any questions, but this resolution that's in order tonight, respectfully for your approval, I hope that you will support it. Thank you.
Good evening, Nicole Renzulli, 54 Massachusetts Street in Cranston. It's nice to see the mayor here with us tonight. His presentation saved you from hearing much of what I was going to say. And it looks like if Council President Marino wants to be the first woman mayor in Cranston, then she's going to have to run with me in 2028. Now on to what I really wanted to address tonight. The sponsorship of a resolution celebrating Black History Month. On paper, this resolution speaks to the importance of recognizing Black history, addressing racial injustice, and fostering inclusion. And in principle, I support every word of it. But the person behind this resolution, the very one calling out for racial justice, is the same person who, according to a Boston Globe report, allegedly berated Councilwoman Anise Germain, Cranston's first Black woman elected to this body, so aggressively that she, and let me quote, said she yelled at her like I was her slave. Think about that. A Black woman, an elected leader, a trailblazer in this city, spoken to with such cruelty that she felt dehumanized. And now the same person who's accused of being responsible for that treatment sits before us pretending to champion racial justice. Words do not absolve actions. A resolution does not rewrite history. You cannot preach equity while allegedly degrading Black colleagues behind closed doors. You do not get to champion inclusion in public while disregarding it in private. You do not get to claim to be an advocate for justice while using power as a tool for humiliation. You cannot expect praise for performative allyship when your own actions tell a very different story. Because leadership is not found in resolutions. It's found in how we treat people when no one is watching. It's found in standing up and speaking out against injustice, no matter how uncomfortable it makes some people feel. Because in the end, history will not remember the resolutions that we pass. It will remember the way we lead. It will remember the moments when we had the chance to be better, to do better, and whether we rose to that occasion or cowered behind empty words. In history, it will not remember the words written in this Black History Month resolution. It will remember who actually lived by them. History will remember my friend and colleague, Anise Germain. History will remember her courage, her dignity, and her grace in the face of disrespect. And I won't let anyone forget it.
Is there anyone else in chambers who wishes to be heard? We will now move on to Zoom. Anyone on Zoom who wishes to be heard, please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes. Thank you.
I am seeing no public comment on Zoom.
Thank you. Public comment on docketed matters is now closed. We will now be moving on to the next agenda item, but I would actually like to take the agenda out of order. Do you have a motion?
Motion to take the agenda out of order.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Council Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. First up, I will take the resolution requesting that the administration and the city council celebrate Black History Month in Cranston throughout the month of February, sponsored by myself, very proudly, along with Councilman Bonanno, Councilman Haroyan, Councilman Andujar, Councilman Graziano, and Councilman Ritz. I also understand that Council Vice President Wall wishes to be added as a sponsor, but that was inadvertently omitted from this agenda. Do I have a motion? And Mayor Trafficante, okay, he would also like to, and Councilman Campopiano would like to be added as co-sponsors. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution this evening?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Is there any, well, before I take discussion from other council members, I would like to say that I proudly am sponsoring this resolution this evening. I have either sponsored or co-sponsored in the previous terms similar resolutions. The attempt to malign me this evening from a disgruntled former council person is sad, to say the least. The true objective of politics was presented in that discussion, referring to mayoralship and things that have nothing to do with this evening. And as the voters of the city of Cranston and the residents of the city of Cranston well know, people can make accusations, but it doesn't mean that they are true. This matter has been fully vetted by the state police willingly on my part to participate in that, and the allegations are completely false, as I have said from the start. And it's shameful of what was represented this evening. I stand in support of this resolution. I stand in support of all people of Cranston, and I hope that my colleagues do the same. Does anyone this evening have any discussion on this resolution? Council Vice President Wall.
Thank you, Madam President. Just very briefly, thank you for including me in the resolution. I'm very proud to be part of this resolution as a public educator with over 30 years of experience. I think it's an important thing to recognize the history and the contributions of Black Americans, and I'm proud to be a sponsor on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Buonanno.
I just want to echo Councilman Wall just said, except for the part being a teacher, that's not me, but you know, I also would just like to mention, I am very, very proud that this is the first resolution that I'll co-sponsor. I'm very proud of the fact that you know, this is the first one for me. So the people who are members of the African-American community absolutely deserve to be recognized for Black History Month. On a national level, there might be some people in my party who think otherwise, but not this Republican and not in this city. And they deserve everything that's written here and more. And again, I'm very proud that this is my first sponsorship or co-sponsorship of a resolution.
Councilman Andujar.
Madam President, I just want to thank you for bringing this resolution about to the city, and on behalf of the residents of Ward 3, we thank you.
Any other council members wish to be heard? Okay, at this time, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next this evening, we have the resolution commemorating the 181st anniversary of Dominican Republic independence. And this is sponsored by Councilman Andujar, Councilwoman Haroyan, and Councilwoman Graziano. I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. That's okay, that's fine.
As would I, Madam President.
Okay, and Mayor Trafficante, Councilman Ritz, Council Vice President Wall, Councilman Campapiano. Okay, and do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from council members?
I would like to
Councilman
thank
Andujar.
everybody for sponsoring. It's a great honor. It's my first resolution, and I just want to just be the voice of the Dominican community in Cranston. But on behalf of everybody, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Andujar, for introducing this. We very much appreciate it. Okay. Councilman Graziano.
I would just like to thank the council for sponsoring this and Councilman Andujar for bringing it before us. I think Cranston is a very diverse community, and I want to make sure all our cultures are represented.
At this time, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Okay. Next this evening, we will move on to page 5, Council President Communications. And I will go to Council President Communications, Mayor. As it reads, mayoral duties and notification of absence in compliance with the city charter. And attached to that are 3 letters. I will first say this evening that I absolutely offer no apologies for the letters that were written. What I am sorry for is the mayor's unwillingness to communicate. And for the language that was taken this evening in this letter that I don't know, your letter's like 3 pages long. Mine is like maybe at most 6 sentences. With things like intentionally lying and things that were said this evening, it's very disheartening. To set forth the facts, that facts matter, I do want to just say at the outset, this agenda item is simply about city business. I, as the council president, was not informed of when the mayor was out of this state. The mayor references this evening about being in the presence of his economic director with me. That was at a ribbon cutting. And the mayor, while imbibing wine and having a hand massage at the ribbon cutting of the spa, with Director Paulino sitting at his side, I walked into that room and the mayor did say he would be taking a vacation. He didn't say when. You didn't say when you'd be back. You didn't say for how long. And as a matter of fact, I remember distinctly in that conversation, just in normal, friendly conversation, because that's what it was at that moment, Mayor, and I think that you would agree with me on that. Okay. I said, well, if you're going to be away for more than 10 days, be sure to let me know. And you looked at me and you didn't say anything more. And that was it. I didn't think anything of it. And then apparently the mayor did depart on vacation, and you say, ask yourself, gee, how did you know that he went away? Because city employees, people that work at City Hall, and members of the public were asking me where the mayor was and if I knew that he was out of state. And I didn't know. And I came to City Hall, as anyone should and could, unannounced. This is the people's house, as I believe the mayor as well has quoted. And I was not emotional. I take great offense to that, great offense to that. And I knocked on the locked door of your office, and your staff was, the only person there was your communications director, who was polite as always. And he was not certain where you were. He thought that maybe you were home. I was seeking to meet with you, as I think you and your staff have previously said, your door is always open. And I heard nothing. It is true. And then I would love to. Yep, love to. Yep, yes, yep, love to. Yep, yep. No, Mayor, this is
Point of
not going to
order.
be a back and forth. It's not going to be a back and forth, okay? This evening was not supposed to be this. This evening was simply about communication. And I don't want to get dragged up in the mud. I will happily give every email, everything that transpired. It's very simple. Just as in a workplace, if a colleague is away for work, if a superior is away for work, people know when, and they know when you're coming back. And the question simply could have been answered. And our charter specifically does say the communication is to go to the council president when you are not here, when you are out of state. And past precedent, when Councilman Poplauskas was council president, the protocol at that time, at least observed, at least on one occasion, was that you, during that first term, had a letter to the council president that was shared with council members stating that you were not going to be in the state. It was not 10 days, it was less than that. And that you were assigning your duties to, I believe it was Director Moretti at the time. So what I'm confused by is, when did that change? Because objectively speaking, it changed when, it's changed since. And in my time as council president, in both terms, even when you went to Myrtle Beach, I didn't know, you didn't tell anyone in terms of the council that you went away. We're just asking for communication. I am not seeking to be mayor. If I was, I would have ran, okay? That's not what this is. We both want the same goal of city operations. And all that needed to occur was when the question is asked, where is the mayor? He's X place. He's gonna be back on Y date. That didn't happen. And you can't say that's not true, because that is true. Yeah. It was not given to the council to know your whereabouts. And again, it could simply, so the point of this evening for council member communications was to address the city employees who are afraid if they speak up that their jobs will be very uncomfortable, okay? To have assurances that the city is operating when you are not here. And if your protocol is going to be, and the solicitor is going to take the interpretation, we have yet to see, that no notification is required upon the council for whenever the mayor is away for 10 days or more. As you said, you were away for 11 days, which you did not tell me that. Then that's something different. And it's section 5.07 of the charter. I did not lie in my letter. I didn't quote the charter. I was just succinct because I couldn't get a straight answer. And the reason why the letter went to, there was a letter directed to you, Director Moretti, and Solicitor Millay, is because I didn't know if you were here or who was in charge. If I knew who was in charge, it wouldn't have been necessary. None of this would have been necessary. It's very simple. I think I've gotten the answer this evening, though, that you feel as though it's not required, and more importantly, that it's not, we're missing the point of being required or not. It's just assurance of the city's operations and putting people at ease. It's a very simple thing to do, but you don't want to, you don't feel it's your duty or courtesy to do, then I know that going forward. And I know what my answer will be to the public and the city employees when they ask. And again, in quoting the charter, it says, if the mayor is temporarily unable to perform the duties of the mayor's office because of illness, accident, or absence from the city, the mayor's duties may be performed for a period of not more than 10 days by the director of a department designated in writing by the mayor, within such limitation as the mayor may include in such designation. It limits it to 10 days. And if that exceeds 10 days, the duties of the mayor shall be performed by the president of the council, or in the event of the president's absence or disability, then by the vice president. That's it. It's simple and straightforward. This isn't rocket science. It didn't have to be confrontational. And to your point of a meeting, that was after multiple, I went to your office only 2 times, the day of after President's Day, and then the next day, the 19th, to deliver the letters. I was absolutely not emotional. And you were not there. The letters were delivered on the 19th. And it's as simple as that. Subsequent to that, your communications director offered a 12 o'clock meeting on that Friday of this past Friday. I had previous commitments scheduled. He offered that to me. I don't know, it was Thursday or something. He had offered that to me. It might have been late Wednesday. And I replied to him that unfortunately I couldn't do it, that I had prior commitments, and that I would like to meet with you this week, which I still have not heard back from him on setting up a meeting this week. That's where things stand factually. This is quite a mountain of a molehill. Solicitor Millet.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Respectfully, I just wish to address 5.07 on behalf of the mayor. First and foremost, Mayor Hopkins was present on Friday, February 7th in the office. His first day out of the office was February 8th, which was a Saturday. I want to respectfully disagree with a number of points that you're making. Number one, obviously the mayor is employed 24/7 as the mayor, but of the 11 days that he was out of state, 4 were weekends. There were 2 Saturdays, 2 Sundays, and President's Day. I think 2 matters that I just want to bring up to members of the council. If anyone wishes to read 5.07, I highly welcome it, because it says if the mayor is temporarily unable to perform the duties of the mayor. Last time this was addressed was 1998. To refresh maybe some people's recollection, there was no text messaging back in 1998. There was limited cell phone contact. No one carried around a computer in their pocket. And certainly Zoom and video conferencing was unavailable. The mayor stayed in contact with all members of his staff during the 10 days, including daily with Mr. Moretti, despite the fact that he did assign him by writing the ability to perform the duties as mayor as he was designated by writing. The other thing that I want to just simply address, Council President, and say this with utmost respect, there is zero mention in 5.07 of notifying anybody of the council, whether or not whether or not the mayor is on vacation or absent. It talks about his temporarily unable to perform the duties. That's it. And there's no notice requirement. Just respectfully, I think there's a lot of issues here that we can see. There is a separation of powers issue here. The mayor is the executive branch. This is the legislative branch. There is absolutely no requirement under our charter or otherwise for the mayor to notify any member of the council, all 9 or the president, whether or not he's on vacation. I would certainly concede the fact that it went beyond 10 days, but the mayor had every ability and did so to perform his duties. This is not a situation like Alexander Haig, where President Reagan was no longer around. This is a situation in 2025 where we have iPhones, we have computers, we have laptops, we have cell phones. They work everywhere on this earth. And as such, the mayor stayed in touch with every member of his staff, at least the department heads. There was a snowstorm, he prepared for that. He was in daily contact. So this is not only misplaced, but in fairness to everyone sitting in this room, is a moot issue. The mayor is sitting in the back of the room. The mayor has been here since he came back and sat in his office and conducted business on on February 19th. He was here on February 7th. He was here on February 19th. And I was first to receive notice from the council president on February 19th, asking where he was. For the 11 days prior, I was not personally asked where the mayor was, nor was it a question. It only seemed to become an issue on February 19th. But again, let's move past this. There are legal issues, so be it. We can read this differently. This is not the time nor the place. But the mayor was never unable to perform his duties. And I think the people of Cranston have every reason to understand that and every reason to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Solicitor. To clarify a couple of things, when the solicitor references it didn't become an issue until February 19th, again, let's make this very clear. I didn't know where he was. I didn't know that the mayor was not here. And when it came to my attention, then I came to City Hall to see if it was in fact true that he wasn't here. And the question on February 18th, when I went to City Hall on that Tuesday, I didn't get the answer that the mayor was here. Okay. And there's also been some, again, facts matter. The letter which council members have, and I can read the one directly to the mayor. It has recently come to my attention from sources outside of your office that you departed Rhode Island on Friday, February 7th for a vacation, and you remain out of state on vacation. So I don't disagree that he was here on February 7th. That's not a lie. It's that you departed on February 7th. That's what was told to me from others, not from you nor anyone from your office. And it was very simple. It is completely unacceptable that I have not been informed of this by you and your staff. Today is day 13 that you remain out of state according to the information that I now have. Kindly advise me immediately of your whereabouts and your return date. The city's charter requires the city council president preside as the interim mayor when the mayor is away for more than 10 days. For this reason, it is vital for the operation of the city that I be advised of your whereabouts immediately, as this is consistent with the law. Now I'm going to again point to Charter 5.07. It says if the mayor is temporarily unable to perform the duties of the mayor's office because of illness, accident, or absence from the city, and it may not exceed 10 days. The issue of what just transpired may be moot from the solicitor's perspective, but it sounds a lot like, let's break the rules and then we don't even care about asking for forgiveness. We're just going to say it's a moot issue, and going forward it matters. And if the question was simply answered, communications were had, none of this would even be being discussed. Any council members wish to be heard?
Madam President,
Mayor Trafficante.
I want the city solicitor to know that back in the 80s and 90s, we had communicated by carrier pigeon. You know, I've been elected official in the city for 41 years. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. We have far more important business to conduct rather than conduct ourselves with this situation tonight. Apparently, there's a loose interpretation of the charter. There's misrepresentation, and we need clarification. And I think, why don't we just call it a draw and say, look, in the future, we know exactly the direction we have to go in and who has to report to whom. So why don't we just move forward from this point on, because let's not argue over situations such as this. Like I said, we got a lot more important business to conduct tonight and in the immediate future. So let's get to it.
Absolutely. Councilman Bonanno.
Yes, I agree with Mayor Trafficani. You know, I don't know about the carrier pigeons, but I agree with the rest of it. And as Councilman Andujar and I were, I don't know if we're allowed to whisper, but we were whispering to each other. This might be a part of the charter that should be looked at for the exact reasons that I think everybody has alluded to. There are a lot more ways to communicate now than there were. When this was written, I think if the mayor, you know, whether it was Mayor Hopkins or, you know, any future mayor, previous mayor, Mayor Traff, if they were out of state and it was 1998, it was a lot different than being out of state now. I think the mayor, a mayor can perform their duties if they are out of state now, whereas they couldn't back then, which means that the way this language was interpreted and has been interpreted has changed. I think maybe the silver lining to the cloud is we should take a look at this. And I know, you know, Councilman Andujar agrees because we just kind of talked about it a little bit. I agree with Mayor Trafficani. We should move on and talk about things that I think the everyday taxpayer and the everyday citizen of Cranston give much more of a hoot about. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Vice President Wall.
I would tend to agree with my colleagues that this line in the charter should definitely be looked at. However, if I could, if I'm not correct, and please, if the solicitor wants to step up and answer, that'd be fine. It sounds to me, and I listened to the mayor's testimony, that he was out of the city for 11 days. We confer with that because that's what you were reporting as well. Going by your date and the mayor's testimony, he said he was, when he spoke, he said 11 days, correct?
Councilman, absolutely.
Okay.
I would concur with that.
And I don't want to belabor the point much. So also, is it I'm sorry, I don't have the correct number, but the line in the charter 5.07?
That is.
So when the mayor leaves the city for more than 10 days, he's supposed to notify the council president. Isn't that correct also?
No.
That's
No.
That's
I
not
don't-
correct.
I don't see anywhere where it says notify. And I have a councilman,
All right, so-
respectfully, I have a copy of the charter, I'd be happy to
Yeah.
provide it. There is
And I don't have
not,
my computer, so.
there
I'm
is
sorry.
not a language in here where he's required to notify anybody. And as such,
Can you read it to me? Because I don't have it.
I
Would you
apologize.
mind?
Sure, if you don't mind. I'll read it in its entirety. 5.07, succession to the mayoralty. If the mayor is temporarily unable to perform the duties of the mayor's office because of illness, accident, or absence from the city, the mayor's duty may be performed for a period of not more than 10 days by the director of a department designated in writing by the mayor within such limitation as the mayor may include in such designation. Period. If there's a lot more, if you want me to read the whole thing. Okay.
And I should press the button. So the mayor was absent from the city for more than 10 days. There had to be, I don't know if it's the council president, but would it go to the director? And if so, is there a way to communicate this? And that's to the point that Councilman Bonanno was saying. I think there's a lack of communication here, and this could all go away with just a little more communication. This is not an indictment. You follow what I'm saying? So I know there were no cell phones, but people did communicate, but the wording is still the wording. And I know, I think we have to figure a way to work out a protocol, how we're gonna deal with this. Does the mayor have a right to go on vacation? Absolutely. Is there a protocol for when the mayor is out of the city? I think there has to be. And this type of thing won't happen, and we won't be sitting here arguing about a word in the charter and this and that. Because you're right, we do have a lot of business to attend to, and that's, I would agree, and I'm sure I belabored the point longer than it need to. But I think the point I do want to make, there should be some communication.
I legally, from a legal perspective, I agree with you, okay? From what's in 5.07, there is no requirement. And I sit here as a layman, and as I would suggest as a layman and as a resident of the city of Cranston, I would agree with what Councilman Bonanno had said. I think maybe that's something that needs to be looked at. There's no doubt about it. Because again, as I suggested, this was written well before the time of cell phones, email, computers, laptops, and we can't lose track of the fact that he has to be temporarily, or she, unable to perform the duties. That's the very first sentence. No, that's the reason for the being, you have to be able to not do the duties, and then there's the reason for not doing the duties. And I would suggest respectfully that vacation's not listed in there. It's not, because everyone in this room, I think, would agree with me that everyone is entitled to a vacation, whether it be council president, Mr. Angel, myself, the mayor. It's not listed. It says absence. And I say that because I think absence back in 1998 meant if someone disappeared for 2 weeks, for whatever that reason being, they couldn't be tracked down. We had pagers back then, if you remember, right? You had to go to a payphone. And your wife would send 143, that meant I love you. On 911, call me back. That's what it was back then. And the language certainly needs to be changed, but there is no notice requirement under 5.07. So respectfully to Council President Marino, it's misplaced here. But again, I think I don't want to overstate it. It's a moot point. The mayor is sitting in the back of the room. He's performing his duties since in person since last Wednesday. He's been performing it the entire time he was away. But it is misplaced here. Maybe that is something for the voters of Cranston to adjust the charter in the future, and that's up for the members of this council. In the meantime, we have to look at the language. Is temporarily unable due to X, right? Well, vacation's not listed in X, but he also wasn't temporarily unable to perform the duties. So that's legally, if you don't get past that first sentence, none of it matters. This isn't a situation where I'm trying to lecture you. I'm just saying that's the language that the people of Cranston chose in 1998 and put in 5.07. That's what's in here, all right? But times have changed. Maybe it's time to go along with the changes in technology and everything else, which will require the voters of the city of Cranston to vote on this. But that's the way it's written, and nowhere in there, in 5.07, does it require the executive branch to notify the legislative branch. And yes, communication skills are certainly important, but if we're going to discuss the law as written, that's how it's written. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you for that detailed answer. I appreciate that. So the other thing is, I would just state, I think it comes down to communication. If we're going to run a good city, we shouldn't be working against each other. So I mean, I know it's not required, but I think there should be some level of communication if that happens. And I don't think it's unreasonable. We should know it. I know there is a separation of power. I get it. I don't want to go through it, but communication between the branches is not a bad thing. That's all I have to say. I'm sorry it took so long.
Thank you. No, it's okay. again, a simple, whether rules required or not, a simple communication saying, I'm going this day, I'll be back this day, so I'm gonna be working while I'm on vacation, would put a lot of people at ease. I stand by seeking to take a vote to accept in the 3 letters into the record. And I think it's actually more imperative than ever this evening to do so. Before I do that, I'm sorry, Councilman Ritz, I didn't see you.
Sorry, I won't take very long, but just a few things while I was sitting here. I'm not in support of this letter for a few reasons. One, I'm concerned with the precedent we're setting here for all of us. This letter, it's a lot of unclear things that are in this letter. I'm disappointed that this is at this point. I think we have a new council here. I think we're all looking to work together, move things forward. I just feel like this is something that could have been handled in private. From what I'm hearing, it's the first time it's happened. It seems like it's a miscommunication, and I'm just disappointed that it's at this level. The other point I was thinking of while I was here is I think we also should enter the mayor's letter into the record to protect us in the future in case something comes out against one of us. We should have some voice to put our words in there too, into the record too. We're gonna do both of them. Just a few of my thoughts while I was sitting there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council members? Councilman Campiano?
Yes, I don't know if, thank you, Madam President. I don't know if I should have waited until we had a motion to accept the letter, or I can say it right now. I don't want to dig into the weeds of days and charters and anything. My only issue with the letter is one thing, and it's come up before us before when letters come before us. The first line says sources from outside the office. It doesn't name any sources. It doesn't say who these people are. I mean, it's hearsay and it's conjecture that where this letter came from. I mean, if we're opening ourselves up to anything at this point, I mean, anybody could say, well, I saw Councilman Trafficante didn't pay his tax. Someone told me Trafficante didn't pay his taxes. Somebody told me this, but somebody told me that. If it said there was an agenda or there was something that was admissible, then I'm all for it. But that's not what's here. It's the sources. What are these sources? That's my concern. I just don't want to open up where any letter, if someone has something, not in this council, but in the future, something that has something vindictive, they can just make a letter, and then it's up to that person who's a letter against to defend themselves. And that's my problem with the letter. Thank you very much. So I will be voting against it.
Madam President, I tend to agree with Councilman Ritz. If we're going to enter any letters into the record, let's enter both letters into the record. That way, both sides are heard. Like I said, the technology back in the 1960s when this charter was written did not exist. Cell phones did not exist. Emails did not exist. Text did not exist. Like I said, my first back in the 1980s when I became mayor, my first phone.
I'm sorry, Mayor Trafficante, if you can press the button,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Lima is directing me. Thank you.
I said, no. I'll start again. Where did I leave off? Like I said, the technology didn't exist. It's a loose interpretation of the charter. Like I said, I would be in favor of entering both letters into the record, and let's resolve this issue in the future.
Councilman Wall.
Yeah,
Council Vice President Wall.
And it was my assumption that when you said enter the letters, it was all the letters, including, right, as well as the mayor's letter?
It was not necessarily, but we didn't take a motion on that. I will just say to Councilman Ritz's point about it could have been handled in private, absolutely, which I tried to do. The letter was sent on the 19th. I went on the 18th to verify if he was in fact here or not. And even when I saw him casually at that ribbon cutting and he didn't say exactly when he was going away, I had said, if you're going to be away more than 10 days, make sure, you let me know. I mean, the attempts were there. Again, I did not want to be at this point. And to Councilman Campiano's point of, from sources the phrasing of from sources outside of your office, and you say it's slippery slope, it's been proven true. The mayor was in fact away for the time that was relayed to me. And given the mayor's response to this simple issue, I stand by the fact that I'm protecting people who approach me that work for the city that were afraid to speak up on the issue, and from members of the public. I stand by that. Director Moretti?
I had no intentions to actually speak up at all this evening, so I was just making some random thoughts. They might not be pulled together really well. But I have to say this, I think it's pretty disgusting that for people to feel that the mayor is going to retaliate against anybody in the city as an employee. That's just nasty, that's propaganda. The mayor does not have that character that would do that. I don't know where that comes from. So that's absurd. Secondly, the council president was informed by the mayor that he would be going away. She didn't mention a particular date, but I remember receiving a text from her actually the day the mayor was going to go away, which is Friday, February 7th, asking me when the mayor would be returning. I actually made a mistake. I had said the following Monday. It actually was the following Wednesday. But with that text, with her asking me when the mayor is returning, told me she had knowledge that the mayor was going away during that period of time, because it only when is he going to return. So I disagree that she was uninformed that the mayor was not in to be the city, at least through the 17th. I was inaccurate. I asked somebody when he's coming back, and it was the 19th, actually. But I do strongly disagree that I have direct knowledge that she was aware. And that's important to note, especially if we talk about communication, because it came from me that actually I informed her, if you will, or confirmed that he was away during that period. I think very important to note with all the arguments that have just been mentioned this evening. Secondly, everyone wants to get along, so words are saying that, oh, it's just a communication issue. Well, if people want to vote this into the record, I think it's adding fuel to the fire. Does that resolve anything? I think both letters shouldn't be written into the record, if you ask me, if you really want to move on with the city business. But if you want to try to stain the mayor, put the letter in, but we only ask that the mayor has the opportunity to state his side of the story and what he believes the facts are. I think that would only be fair. I have to say too, as explained by the city solicitor, the premise to the 10-day rule appears to be from the solicitor's position and the mayor's position that it would apply if the mayor was unable to temporarily perform his duties. It's been proven the mayor has been performing his duties throughout. I just want to testify that of the interactions that I had with the mayor, of him directing the city on a day-to-day basis, on every day that he was out of the city, maybe one day is an exception. I had some contact with him, whether it be email, texting, or telephone conversations. I can attest that the mayor was able to, and I can attest that the mayor performed his duties as mayor and directed me on certain items that I needed his advice, and he was there for it. And he directed storm operations, whereas we actually received compliments about how the storm operations were handled by the city of Cranston, by our staff, to the credit of our public works people. You know, we're debating over this one-day thing. Is it worth it? But I leave it to your judgment. But let me just try again. As I said, I have a couple of just thoughts. And here's a crazy thing, and everyone's in agreement. Maybe the charter should be looked at. What if the mayor had broke his leg and he had complications and just sitting in Rhode Island hospital? They're completely lucid. Does that mean, whether it be Mayor Hopkins or Mayor XYZ, does that mean he's not able to perform his job responsibilities because he's over the line in Providence? Think about that. Because the same communications methods that are available today, whether he's in China or whether he's down the street in Providence, are the same. So is this worth it, is what I'm trying to express. And lastly, there is a separation of powers. There is the legislative branch and the executive branch. The executive branch operated flawlessly with his leadership through the time he wasn't there. It was actually a very quiet period. It was easy, actually, because it was a quiet period of time with the exceptions of those storms. And I looked to the mayor for direction, and he was there every day, and he was more than proactive in chasing me down, to be quite honest with you. So I kindly request, so I'm testifying to you to say that the mayor's, how active he was during that period of time, able to and did perform his job responsibilities while he was away. And I think if you people really want this issue to go away and move on, I think both letters should not be read into the record. And it would be in the best interest of the citizens and the residents that really don't want this going on in the city of Cranston. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Moretti. I do remember distinctly that the text message to you on February 7th asking, and I have it here, "Hi, Tony, can you just let me know when the mayor is back?" And you responded, "Next Monday." And in fact, he was not back that next Monday. And I heard from people that week, which is why then the President's Day I went in. So again, I'm not lying. I'm not misrepresenting. I don't want to have this as an agenda item. I didn't want to take time out to go to City Hall. I did that. I asked the question. And this is more about on a go-forward basis. And we've gotten our answer this evening as to whether it's required or not. Decency of communication is lost. And you know what? I don't care to take the motion to accept any of the records. The letters stand for what they are. And my letter, I think, is a matter of 6 sentences. And frankly, true intentions were revealed this evening and lack of respect. The letter that I read this evening from the mayor is disgusting, saying that I intentionally lied and other grandiose exaggerations, all when a simple phone call or reply to an email would have sufficed. We are now moving on. Next on the agenda, we will go to I gotta get that page. Page 3. We've got reports of committees. We have from the Claims Committee, we have Councilman Wall, Council Vice President Wall reporting out of the Claims Committee, please.
Thank you, Madam President. The Claims Committee, it did in fact meet on February the 3rd, 2025. The paid claims report was included in your packet, and there is nothing further to report.
Thank you, Council Vice President Wall. Next, we have reporting out of Safety Services and Licenses Committee. Councilwoman Haroyan, as chair of that committee, is not here this evening due to, I believe, illness. Council Vice President Wall, if you are the vice chair, if you can report out of that committee this evening. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam President. The Safety Services and Licensing Committee also met on February the 3rd. A number of items came before that committee. A couple of them were Class BV liquor licenses that were new. The first would be the Blue Room RI LLC located at 2197 Broad Street. This passed through committee. I would urge passage.
Motion to approve. Second.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, you need a motion to approve the licenses over the cap. You can approve it, but you're approving it as being over the cap.
So I believe the president would have to ask for that anyway, but yes, this would be over the cap, right? And that would be Blue Room LLC, RI LLC located at 2197 Broad Street. It would be over the cap. It is a BV liquor license.
Do I have a motion to approve over the cap for Blue Room Rhode Island LLC?
Motion to approve over the cap for Rhode Island Blue Room, Rhode Island LLC.
Okay, for the
Second.
That's for the Class BV liquor license. Is there any discussion from council members? No. There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
yes,
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next one, Council Vice President.
Okay, the next item would be also, it's also over the cap. It is a Class BV liquor license. It's a new liquor license. It is JMMH Corp. D/BA Ginza Asian Bistro located at 736 Park Avenue. I would urge passage. And remember, once again, I'll remind you, it's over the cap and it is a new BV liquor license.
Thank you, Council Vice President Wall. Before I entertain a motion to approve over the cap on that, I just had a question for the solicitor. I was sick that evening, and I don't know if it was discussed whether or not there was an issue with any proximity of this business and location to a school. I just want to ensure that it's outside of that. I believe it's 200 feet under state law.
I'm sorry, Council President. I was not present. Excuse me. I think that Mr. Verdecchio was present, but I don't think there were any issues that were raised.
Okay. And I'm sorry, then there's also the issue of the letter of good standing to the clerk. Has that been provided?
Yes, that was received on Friday. I can also, if you allow me, to just speak on your question about the school.
Yes, please.
When we receive the maps from the assessor's office, they would identify that it was, that this would not be allowed because it was in that circumference. I can double check before we issue the license, but I would be pretty certain that we wouldn't even have allowed this application to go through if they were within that range.
Okay, thank you very much. That's reassuring. Okay. Now that all that business has been addressed, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Class BV liquor license over the cap for JMMH Corporation doing business as Ginza Asian Bistro.
so moved,
Second.
Any discussion from council members? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
yes,
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
All right, the next item, this is also a new Class BV liquor license. It is once again over the cap. It would be Ming's Asian Street Food LLC located at 1864 Broad Street. I would urge passage.
so moved,
Second.
If we have, just to be clear for the record, a motion to approve the Class BV liquor license over the cap from Ming's Asian Street Food LLC. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
second,
Thank you. Any discussion from council members? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
yes,
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have Council Vice President Wall reporting out of Finance Committee, please.
All right, once again, the Finance Committee did meet. It did meet on February the 3rd, the same night as the other two committees, and there is nothing to report out of that Finance Committee meeting. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Next, we have reporting out of Public Works Committee, Councilwoman Graziano.
Thank you, Council President. So the Public Works Committee voted forward to City Council the approval of the petition for the abandonment of a portion of Elmhurst Avenue. The petitioner is Brian D. White, and it was sponsored by Councilman Capapiano. And this was approved 6-1 at the February 13th, 2025 meeting with one council member dissenting.
Okay, before I entertain a motion with respect to this resolution, I was at my son's open house that evening. I want to make mention of a couple of things and I'll entertain a motion. I understand from reviewing the meeting online with respect to this, there was a representation about what Ed Talley on behalf of the Public Works Department had stated, and I just want to make sure that that's corrected. Mr. Talley had just said that there was no sewer easement that he could find. He didn't say that there was no sewer connection, and that seemed to be represented that evening at the meeting. And he wanted that to be clarified, that distinction. Okay, so there is in fact sewer connection. It's just that sewer easement could not be located. I have reservations, and I will not be voting in support of this resolution this evening for two reasons. One being the issue of the easement is something that needs to be fully vetted and properly documented before the city transfers property. I feel as though it would be irresponsible of me to allow for something on behalf of the city and its taxpayers for something that I would not be doing on a personal level. If in the past, when it's come to transactions of whether it be personal real estate or commercial real estate, these types of issues are done in advance. At least that's the standard that I would hold for myself, and I would hold the same for the city. There's no reason why, if it's something that should be done, that therefore, there's no reason why that can't occur before the city council takes up passage of this resolution of abandoning this property. In addition to that, I have not been convinced of the actual value of $15,000 being a fair transaction amount, a fair market value for that 6,500 square feet as represented. I would like to hear more as to how the city came to that number from the city, whether it be the assessor or whoever it is in the city's department that came to that assessment, as opposed to hearing from the applicant who benefits by the transfer of this property. For those reasons, again, I will not be in support of this resolution this evening. I look forward to hearing discussion from other council members. My recommendation would be that this resolution get continued 30 or 60 days in order to afford those issues to be addressed. Again, especially when it comes to the easement, a proper easement being recorded in a proper way for sewers or utilities should be done before there is a transfer of any title of property, period. And it is grossly irresponsible as a council person to approve of something where that has not been done. There may be costs associated by the city as well with respect to documenting that easement, and those need to be factored in with respect to the transfer of the property, and that has not been represented to this council. It wasn't represented in committee as to what those costs might be as well. It seems a rush, and I'm not sure why. It doesn't benefit the city, and it doesn't hurt the city to do this in a thoughtful and appropriate manner. Before I entertain a motion, I will entertain a motion to continue this matter on that basis for 30 days in order to afford the proper easement. Do I have a motion to continue this resolution?
Motion
30
to
days?
continue. 30 days.
Second.
Is there any discussion from council members as to the motion to continue?
I guess I just kind of have a question. You know, looking at this the last time, it's gone back and forth many times over here. Could we approve it with that condition in there just to move this along for this poor person that's come back and forth so many times?
It hasn't, I take issue with it's gone back and forth many times. I, as city council president, as a citywide city council person, my first obligation is to the city and the taxpayers, and not to one individual that's seeking to get, you know, big bang for his buck in terms of a transfer of a property for the reasons that I indicated. And to wait an additional 30 days for proper documentation with respect to transfer of a property is, to me, well within reason. Yep. Go ahead, Councilman Graziano.
Thank you, Council President. I just like to go ahead and restate my original concerns. I won't take a long time, but I think it's a huge disservice to go ahead with this evening. specifically when I'm working with my DPW and they can't get to a site because the proper easement isn't recorded, the proper language isn't there, and we don't have the legal authority. I think it's putting the city and the city workers at a huge disadvantage. And I see it all the time. And I think the city has a right, I think the DPW staff has a right to review the easement to make sure it gives them the proper authority to access the site and do the work that they have to do. And I think without that, we're at a disadvantage. I'm advocating for the city. That's who I'm advocating for. I'm advocating for the staff of the city to be able to do their job and execute their duties properly for the residents of this city. And I think we have a right to see the language in the easements, review the language, and that language should be drafted directly into the title. Without it, you're lost. And I have a challenge about noting resolutions from 1985 and stating that it's been done over and over again, and this is the way it's always been done. I don't like that. And I would also challenge you to do a title search and trace it back and see if the city has the proper authority to access those sites and do the work that they need to do sewer repair, check their manholes, manage their catch basins, clean their stormwater system, check damaged and repaired sewer lines and water lines. I agree. I think we need to wait on this and have the proper documentation. And I would urge the council members to take my advice, seeing I work for a municipality and I work with my DPW all the time.
Councilman Andujar.
I don't want to make Mr. White the guinea pig. Recording easements, doing studies, that costs money. I have full faith in the tax assessor. If he says it's $1, it's $1. If we need to change the guidelines, I think that's something we look at. But right now, I feel that Mr. White's being the guinea pig, and I don't want to stop building. So I want this to move forward. And if we have to look at it, we look at it in the future and we change things, but not on Mr. White. It's not fair.
Council Vice President Wall.
Listen, I voted for this, to move this out of committee. But I don't see any problem waiting 30 days to make sure we have all our I's dotted and our T's crossed. I don't think it's to do the extra due diligence on behalf of the city and just take care of it. It's 30 days. I think we can do that, and that's why I'm going to be voting to continue this evening.
Thank you. And to Director Moretti, if I may, do you know if the tax assessor assessed the property to come up with the $15,000? And if so, when?
No, I'm unaware whether he did or did not.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Buonanno.
I think there might have been something in one of the packets we received. I don't have it with me. I'll look, but there might have been something in one of the packets we received as committee members as far as the value of the property. I'll look now if I can't find it. But if the applicant has no problem, as Mr. Murray kind of shouted out there, the applicant has no problem, let's continue it 30 days. Is 30 days adequate time to assess the concerns that you brought up and address them in a proper fashion? That would be my only question.
Councilman Buonanno, it's a good point, but the issue is we don't know what we don't know. And I think that it's better and it's more advantageous to the applicant, to Mr. White, and it also serves the purpose of protecting the city by continuing it to a 30-day increment as opposed to a 60-day increment. And with respect to the issue of the $15,000, if it was done by the assessor or not, we should have something that I would want submitted into the record when this resolution comes up, supporting that as well, even though it may have previously been in some pages of documents.
Yeah.
And frankly, to address it this evening, that's the second issue. The first issue, as I indicated, is responsible transfers of property. You secure your easements and you have all of your paperwork in advance before you close on the property and transfer it.
Makes sense to me. I mean,
Yep. Thank you.
Have a real
And I
estate
appreciate
license.
that the applicant is willing to continue it 30 days, and I'm sure the applicant can advise near that time. as to whether or not additional time is needed.
We do, just so I can,
Sure.
Councilwoman Graziano found it more quickly than I could, but we do have a letter from David Cole to Mr. Marchese. I won't read the whole thing, but David Cole's deputy assessor, Mr. Marchese is the purchasing agent, dated May 3rd, 2024. So concluding the value to be 15,000. So that could be put in the record at the appropriate time, but we do have it.
Yes, I think I don't think, I know I'll have additional follow-up with the assessor's office as the value of the property. Councilman Andahar.
May I ask Mr. Murray to come up to the podium, please?
No,
that
Councilman
no,
Andahar,
can't?
he already stated he'd be willing to continue at 30 days. I would.
I
like
just
kind of
want to
move the
reiterate then,
calendar
Council
along.
President, that
Yeah.
you want the applicant to incur cost, and in 30 days, we could shut him down, and he just spent that money on nothing. That's all I want for the record, but.
I believe has every councilman been heard? Okay, Councilman Campiano.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a quick question. If we do continue this for 30 days, does it have to go back to Public Works or can it go to full council?
Nope, it remains here before full council, correct? Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep. Okay. All right. At this time, no other discussion being heard. If we could have a roll on the motion to continue it to the next council meeting.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
No.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Moving on to, thank you, Councilman Graziano, for that reporting out of committee and for having the paperwork at the ready. Thank you. Next, we have Councilman Andahar reporting out of Ordinance Committee as the chair.
Madam President, we had a successful meeting on the 13th of February in the Ordinance Committee for the application of Margaret Scarcella. We had great community engagement, but that ordinance was denied. So there's nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Madam President, if I may be heard, despite the fact that this matter was denied by the committee, it's still required under state law and our city ordinances that this council vote.
That's correct.
On this matter.
It's a petition. It's a direct petition to the council for a zone change. It's one of the few times that some person or entity has the right to petition the council. Even though it's heard and vetted in committee, this is one of those instances where the full council has to vote on something that's been denied in committee.
I have a question then this evening with the agenda noting that it's for information purposes only and no vote is to be taken. How does the solicitor recommend that we proceed this evening?
I would suggest then, out of an abundance of caution, it be replaced on the calendar within 30 days and a vote be taken. It can stay within the council.
Thank you. Okay, so I will entertain a motion to continue 125-01 ordinance and amendment of chapter 17.84 of the Code of the City of Cranston entitled zoning, dealing with Caraway Drive. And that motion to continue is to the next month's council meeting.
Motion to continue to next month's council meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have public comment for undocketed matters. If there's anyone in chambers or on Zoom that wishes to be heard, please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes. We will begin with in chambers. Okay. There's no one to be heard for undocketed matters in chambers. Tom, is there anyone on Zoom?
There is no public comment.
Thank you. Next, moving on to election appointment of city officials, we have the reappointment of Kirk McDonough as a Democratic member of the Canvassing Authority as nominated by Mayor Hopkins in accordance with state law for the term beginning March 3rd and end of this year and ending March 2, 2031. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the reappointment.
Second.
Any discussion from council members? Okay. There being none, I would just like to thank Mr. McDonough for his willingness to serve on the Board of Canvassers and most recently in the role as chair. At this time, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have the appointment of Amy Grace Sloan as a member of the Arts Commission for the term of February 24, 2025 through February 24, 2028. Do I have a motion?
So
Motion
moved.
to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Graziano.
I would just, hi, I would like to say that I fully support Amy Sloan being appointed to the Arts Commission, specifically in Ward 1. She has been an amazing volunteer. She single-handedly designed the mural that exists today on Edgewood Highland School. She has done numerous murals on our playground. And if you could see the designs that she did, it's like something, something you can't fathom doing yourself. And she made something on a piece of paper come to life. And I'm sorry that I'm belaboring this, but I just want to say that she's an excellent volunteer and she gives all her time and dedication to our city to make sure our schools in Ward 1 look fabulous.
Any other council members? No? Okay. Thank you, Councilman Graziano, and thank you, Ms. Sloan, for your willingness to step up. I have had the privilege of seeing the beautiful artwork that you have done to the Edgewood Highlands School, and that beautification is very much appreciated when moms such as yourself step up in ways that really make a difference, and we really do appreciate it. And we look forward to your addition to the Arts Commission. Thank you very much for making that sacrifice for the community. Okay. At this time, if the clerk can please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have the appointment of Dr. Tano Palermo, Esquire, to the Public Library Board of Trustees as requested by Chairman Michael Goldberg. This is to fill the unexpired term of Ms. Cowart, ending on July 31st, 2027. Do I have a motion to approve that appointment?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion from council members? Okay. Just want to thank the willingness of Dr. Palermo to serve on the Board of Trustees for the Public Library. At this time, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have the appointment of Councilwoman Bridget Graziano to the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee as council representative for the term January 6, 25 through January 4, 27. Do I have a motion for that appointment?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion from council members? I just would like to thank Councilwoman Graziano for her ability to serve on this commission. I know this is near and dear to your heart. Even as a constituent, this issue was very important, and so we look forward to your input and your feedback. At this time, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have on page 5, executive communications, consideration of the request from Assistant Chief Richard Mancini for 1-year continuation of service for the period of October 16, 24 through October 15, 25. Director Moretti.
Thank you, Council President. Chief Mancini has satisfactorily achieved all requirements required for continuation of service. His leadership is absolutely invaluable to the fire department, and the mayor urges approval of the chief's request to continue service for the next year.
I'll entertain a motion
Motion to,
relative to
Council
this
President.
request.
motion to approve.
Second.
Should,
Sure.
was a medical exam required?
There was a physical. Yes, sir.
Okay, there was a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? I know Councilman Trafficante addressed the issue of the medical examination. Anyone else have any other discussion? Nope. All right, I want to thank Assistant Chief Richard Mancini for his desire to remain dedicated to the fire department serving the greater community at large, and wish him great luck in the next year. At this time, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have the legal expense analysis for the period of July 1, 2024 through February 18, 25. This is for informational purposes for council members. And do council members have any discussion, questions, concerns? I would like to represent this evening to Council Vice President Wall for Finance and give Solicitor Malay a heads up as well, that for the March Finance Committee meeting, I would like to have an update from the solicitor as to the current pending litigation that the city is involved in terms of the attorneys that are hired by the city for that pending litigation, which is public, so it'll be all suit matters. And also separately, a listing of pending litigation with law firms or attorneys hired by the city for non-suit related matters. And if the non-suit related matters are deemed for executive session, then we can have executive session for the non-suit, non-public matters.
No problem. That's what I was just going to suggest. If there were things that are not public, I'd be happy to address that in executive session. Anything that's public, I'd be happy to address.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yep. And I'll follow up with an email to Council Vice President Wall and the clerk to add that to that finance agenda, and I'll CC the solicitor on that. Next, we have in a Council President Communications, an update from the administration and discussion of the fire incident 460 Natick Ave occurring on November 18 and November 19, 2024. Cause of the fire, fire prevention for the future, specific land and business uses at the location, safety and compliance, licensing and status of inspections. This topic has previously been scheduled for safety services committees in the past, and other council meetings since that time. And we're looking for an update. At the last meeting, there was nothing, and that was unacceptable. But
Madam President, thank you. The fire inspection, the fire marshal went out to inspect based on the fire from November. It was basically naturally caused due to extremely dry weather. It was a pile of leaves and branches. There was a big pile of brush. There were absolutely no violations or fire code issues, and no neighboring properties were at danger due to the conditions, the weather conditions at that point in time. Inspections has been out as well to 460 Natick Avenue. Mr. Moyo runs a very respectable business out there and has been for quite a period of time. 460 Natick Avenue falls within a residential A8 zone. However, it's considered a nursery man's license, which falls under basically the Farm to the Right to Farm Act. So he has the legal non-conforming use of that property. Upon inspection on February 19th, there were absolutely no issues with the city inspections office and no violations. There were some vehicles that were noticed to be there, and I sent a letter to Mr. Moyo today, in fact, by mail, but he's present here, just indicating that as long as all of those vehicles are not part of any other business except for the business which is currently being run out of there, and there's absolutely no issues with the city, and we have no reason to believe otherwise. And my letter to Mr. Moyo today, dated today, and sent to him via USPS, so he doesn't have it yet, and I apologize. Just simply ask him to certify that all the businesses are operating under that same license. If they are, he's totally within compliance based on his nurseryman's license. So I hope that it addresses all the concerns of the council.
Okay, I've got a few questions relative to what you just represented this evening in terms of the first and only inspection was on February 19, 2025. Is that correct? Since the fire, short of the fire department being there the night of the fire?
I cannot answer whether or not it was the first inspection. I will represent that the administration through Mr. Moretti requested that the inspections department go out and do a current inspection. And that was done on February 19th, this past week that just passed. Whether there were prior inspections, that's a question better formulated for Mr. Rodeo or the department. However, the current inspection shows 0 violations, 0 issues with the site. And as I indicated, because of the nurseryman's license and the Right to Farm Act, there's very little that the city can do to enforce. The property falls under really the auspices of the DEM based on that Right to Farm Act.
Sticking with the inspection, so the inspection that we know occurred on February 19th, 2025, is there a written report for that inspection?
There is.
Okay. Do you have that report?
I have a copy of a memo by Mr. Peichel, who's the zoning secretary in the city of Cranston. I'd be happy to provide it to the president and whoever you want to.
Okay. Yeah, if perhaps after the meeting, if you could send it to the clerk and she can circulate it to all the council members.
I will. I will scan it in and send it to Ms. Nelson.
Okay, and then I'd ask too, just to confirm for the next safety services meeting, or just confirm in an email whether or not there were any other inspections performed by the inspections department since the fire besides February 19, 2025. And if there were those reports, if those could be provided too.
I can send an email to Mr. Rodeo and Mr. Peichel asking for their records on that issue, certainly.
In terms of the fire department's cause of the fire, was that done by the state fire marshal? Was that done on a local level?
Fire Marshal Niket submitted a report to the city indicating 6 paragraphs indicating what I just reported to the council. And I can also make that, I can scan that in and send that to Ms. Nelson to be circulated to members of the council.
That would be fantastic if you could do that as well. And then in terms of the uses of that property, the uses of that property have been determined to be what exactly?
It's a nursery slash landscaping type of property. Strike that business, excuse me. And based on the fact that there is a nurseryman's license issued, is, as I indicated, not that we have any concerns, but there is little to nothing that the city can do to enforce it under the Right to Farm Act. And as long as that property is being used for that purpose, and those businesses fall under the nurseryman's license, then it is a legal non-conforming use within that property.
My understanding is that there are multiple uses and some of those may be outside of the nursery. use, including taking in materials from outside and processing
According,
them?
I'm sorry.
Is that, yeah, no, that's, I don't know if that's been observed.
No, according to inspections, there was nothing that came to light during that. Like I said, there were a couple of vehicles that I believe were under lawn beauticians, that if they are operating under that same license, then it's operating under the same business. So again, we have no reason to believe that 460 Natick Avenue is not operating in the manner that it's being represented as.
Which, if I understand you correct, is a nursery and a landscaping business?
They have a nurseryman's license, and yes, my understanding, and I apologize, I can't think of the name of the actual nursery, but lawn beauticians is apparently part of that nurseryman's license.
And are they required to have licenses issued from the city for the operation of those businesses?
Not if they're operating under the Right to Farm Act.
If it's a nursery?
Correct.
Or a landscaping?
Correct.
Business? And so they currently do not hold any city licenses?
That I can't answer that specific question. I would defer on that and have to check with the clerk's office to see if there are any other licenses. I do know that they have a valid nurseryman's license at that 460 Natick Avenue address.
And there's a large pile of asphalt there, which that doesn't fit under a nursery. I see Councilman Campopiano shaking his head.
Yeah, so that's, it is there. Apparently, it is scheduled to be removed. However, due to the cold weather, it condensed and is basically unable to be moved at this point in time. Apparently, they are waiting for just the weather to break, assuming March or beginning of April, when the weather warms up, and they can remove that. That is going to be removed. It's been addressed by inspections. They are aware of it. However, it's just impossible at this point in time due to the it condensed. I'm trying to think of the proper term, but it's basically one big hard pile, and so it needs to soften up before it can be removed.
Has there been a date set as to when it would be removed by?
I was told early spring.
And then in terms of the fire marshal, I know locally it was done. Is there a requirement the state fire marshal render a cause as the fire? Do you know?
I think that would be a better question asked to the fire department, but I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Going forward, that information that you gave this evening will be helpful to know. But then in terms of the operations that are conducted, the uses that are, being done at that property, the height of those large mulch piles, and there are extensive ones that are there. There is concern, and there's been, I believe in Mr. Moyo, I think even candidly has said in the past, the fire department has gone out there because of concerns of combusting with some of the piles in the past. What are we doing as a city to ensure that that there's proper oversight of the height of those piles and the combustibility?
Again, inspections has been out, the fire department has been out. They have not raised concerns as presently as to those particular piles. Mr. Moyo has indicated he is going to remove them, but neither inspections nor the fire department has raised the concern. And again, it also gets into the fact of the Right to Farm Act. So we're treading on dangerous ground in requiring certain things. The inspections department doesn't have a problem with that. Again, there is a pile of asphalt that, separate and apart, needs to be removed. But as far as mulch, if it's being used within the Right to Farm Act, under that license, there's little to nothing that the city can do. Again, it becomes an issue for the DEM.
Yeah, and I could be wrong. There may be state laws regulating the height of those mulch piles. So if that would, I think it would be beneficial maybe if reach out was made on a state level just to ensure that there's compliance for the safety.
I can
of the
relate
community.
that to Mr. Peichel and in inspections. I'd be happy to do that.
Do other council members wish to be heard? Councilman Campiano.
Thank you, Madam President. I have drove by there on multiple occasions and I am pro-business, but I also stress that you have to be a good neighbor, especially one that's nestled on a country road in my beloved Ward 4. So I did witness those asphalt piles, which I don't know constitutes farming. I also witnessed multiple trucks that appear to be in disrepair or whatever. I don't know if they used them or not. So I would look forward to find out when this pile will be removed and if those trucks are registered. And if they are registered, they're registered to that business. So I look forward to getting that information. Thank you.
A question for the solicitor. I myself have observed that there's equipment being worked on in the large building there on the property. If there is mechanical work being done to sanders or other types of equipment and vehicles, does that require any licensing?
Madam President, I would suggest no, if it's not being operated as an auto body business or an auto repair shop. People are free to fix their own machinery however way they want. Again, if someone's bringing their truck to them to have it fixed, that's a whole different story and a different ballgame. But if, I'll use an example, a pickup truck that's being used on that farm is the engine's being fixed by people that own the property, then there's little to nothing that can be done by the city. And again, as of the most recent inspection, which was only last week on the 19th, Mr. Peichel found 0 violations. So.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Thank you, Council President. I would really like to take some time to review this By Right Farm Act because I have it in Massachusetts and it doesn't apply to our zoning. So, and I actually just did a quick Google. I know this is like off the cuff, but basically it says, this is a guide to farming in Rhode Island, and it specifically quotes the by right to farm, and it says choosing the location of your farm may be dictated by local zoning. It would be smart to check the local code before purchasing a property to farm on. I mean, I'm actually citing somebody in Massachusetts right now for the same thing, and they're in an AR1 agricultural residential, and that doesn't give them the right to operate as a business, and it definitely doesn't give them a right to have asphalt import materials, and they would have to prove that they were composting under the by right. So I'm not sure I'm bought in on this whole thing.
Thank you, Councilwoman Graziano. And just for the solicitor, just for clarity's sake too, that property is not zoned commercial, is that correct? It's zoned residential A8, if I'm not mistaken?
I believe it's A8.
Okay. And solicitor, you'd agree with me, the use that occurs on that property, then if it's not, if it's a commercial use, that would not be an appropriate use on that property if it is in fact zone A8 or A80. I know you take an exception of you're saying about right to farm. Is that correct, Solicitor Millet?
You are correct. Anything other than the use under the nursery man's license would be a non-conforming use and would not be legal. Correct. You are correct.
It would be commercial in some way. Okay. Any other council members? No. Okay. All right. That's it on that subject. Next, we go to council member communications. Councilman Haroyan has a Budlong pool update. I don't know if the administration wants to provide an update on the Budlong Pool.
The status is basically the same. There's no real updates other than to say that demolition continues. And nothing has changed from that. The weather's been cold, but they've been able to make good progress.
All right. On behalf of Councilman Haroyan, I guess that will continue to next month too. Is that right, Tracy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then we have introduction of new business. I will ask that the matters of new business on page 5, that they be taken as a block. Do you have a motion to take the matters of new business as a block?
Motion to take the matters of new business as a block.
Second.
Any discussion from council members? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have a motion to approve the block, to send them to their respective committees.
Motion to approve the block.
Second.
Just a motion to refer the block to their respective committees.
Motion to refer the block to their respective committees.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we're going to jump to informational matters at the bottom of page 6. Just for informational purposes, the resignation of Ms. Cowart from the Cranston Public Library Board of Trustees effective January 30th. That leaves us with this evening, a motion to go into executive session. I'd ask for a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5 subsection A subsection 2 pertaining to collective bargaining relative to administration's negotiations and contract details for the Teamsters Local 251 and the Rhode Island Laborers Union 1322 and as part of the AFL-CIO. Do I have a motion?
Motion to
Yes.
go in executive session.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno. Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Do I have a motion, just to report too, out of executive session, there were no votes taken in executive session. Do I have a motion to seal the minutes of the executive session?
Motion to seal the minutes from the executive session.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano, Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano, Councilman Andujar,
Councilman.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at this time.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in
Second.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Good evening.